good, thank you.
You're welcome, sweetheart. चलो अब रात ज्यादा हो गई, बारिश हो रही है बाहर।
हाँ ठीक है, चलो।
छतरी ऊपर रखो आराम से।
I'm hungry. Lily tugged my coat, her 5-year-old face scrunched with exhaustion. I know, sweetheart. Soon. I forced my voice steady though my heart felt like lead. Outside the Chicago hotel, rain hammered down in white sheets. I opened my wallet. $43 left after the overdue electric bill and Lily's preschool late fee. The tow fee alone would break me. Lily pressed against my leg, rainwater soaking her small pants, brown hair clinging to her forehead. She'd sat quietly for hours while I worked, coloring in her book. Too patient for a child who should have been tucked in bed, not shivering in a lobby at 9 p.m. on a weeknight. Let's find somewhere dry, I said, though the weather app warned the storm would last 2 more hours. I lifted her into my arms, her hands icy around my neck. Across the street, a corner cafe glowed with warm light, the kind with marble bars and $12 lattes. I never stepped into places like that. But Lily was shaking. When I pushed open the heavy door, warmth and coffee scents swept over us. The cafe was packed. At the back, one table had a single occupant, a man in a dark coat, black hair slightly curled, eyes quietly observing. May I sit here? He looked up, studying Lily before returning to me. One brow raised, weighing something. Then a small nod. Sit. But you're not leaving anytime soon. Before I could grasp his meaning, he raised a hand. A server brought hot cocoa and a pastry, placing them before Lily. I turned to refuse. I couldn't afford anything here. But he shook his head, watching Lily break off a piece of pastry. How old is she? 5, I answered softly. His tailored suit, expensive watch, and deliberate composure suggested someone who didn't blend into crowds. The entire room seemed to shift to match his presence. What do you do? Photography. Freelance. I just finished an event across the street and my car got towed. He leaned forward. How much do you need to get it back? I froze. I hadn't come to ask for money. I'm not offering out of pity, he said calmly. I need a photographer this week. My mother is turning 65, a private gathering. I need someone who can capture real moments. The shoulder touches, the glances, the things nobody notices. I don't have a studio. I only work outdoors. I saw how you held your daughter, he interrupted. That's the kind of person I need. He pulled out a textured business card. Vincent Moretti. No address, just a phone number. Take it. I'll pay half up front if you accept. Every instinct screamed warning. But his eyes weren't pleading or rushing, just certain. I looked at Lily, warm now, sipping cocoa, the first smile of the day on her lips. I couldn't walk away. The next morning I dialed the number. A gentle female voice answered as if expecting me. Miss Parker, correct? If you agree, the car will pick you up tomorrow afternoon. Everything will be prepared. You won't need anything except your camera. Before I could ask questions, she added, the deposit has been transferred. I checked my email, $500 with a note, for trust. I'd never been paid up front. Never had a job feel like a test of faith. The next afternoon, a black car arrived. Marcus, the tall, solemn driver, opened the door like we were honored guests. During the hour-long drive, my heart pounded. Lily watched the houses drift by, sunlight brushing her cheeks. When we turned onto a stone-paved road leading to a sprawling estate behind towering iron gates, I knew I'd stepped into a different world. The mansion rose 3 stories of pale gray stone with arched windows catching fading light. Wide stone steps led to where 2 suited men stood waiting. Inside, the foyer could have swallowed my entire apartment. Crystal chandeliers cascaded from vaulted beams 20 feet high. At the hall's end stood a woman in black silk, silver hair in a tight bun, Lucia Moretti, Vincent's mother. How old is the child? Her faint Italian accent turned the words gentle. 5. She nodded, her lips pressing together before looking back at me. Her eyes tell stories. Capturing that is an art. Vincent appeared at the staircase top, dressed simply in white shirt and dark trousers. His unhurried, confident movement made the house seem to pause. Everything is ready, he said. Marcus led me to what they called the temporary studio. Perfect light, professional equipment. Everything arranged as though I were a renowned photographer invited for a major campaign. When I returned to the main room, Lily sat on a red velvet armchair beside a golden-haired girl, Rosa, the housekeeper's daughter. Lucia gestured to the chair opposite her. She's a friendly child. Lily adapts quickly, I said steadily. She reminds me of someone, Lucia's voice hushed. A little girl who once sat in that exact spot with the same soft brown hair. Sophia, my first grandchild. She passed away 2 years ago in an accident. My throat tightened. Lucia leaned forward. You don't need to be afraid. This is safe. Vincent doesn't choose people at random. She walked to Lily, placing a thin, aged hand tenderly on my daughter's head. Lily looked up and smiled, bright and unguarded. I would like you to photograph me with Lily, Lucia said. Just the two of us in the back garden under the maple tree. Something fragile formed between us, a quiet thread from loss to possibility. The party transformed the garden into something breathtaking. White draped tables, crystal vases with white roses and pale peonies, sunlight filtering through golden red maples. Vincent stood beside Lucia in a dark suit. She wore deep sapphire silk, her expression radiant yet introspective. I began working, the camera an extension of my hands. I moved slowly, observing, a father watching his daughter twirl in afternoon light, an elderly mother's hand on her son's shoulder, fingers tightening between an elderly couple. When Lucia walked to Lily and placed her hand on my daughter's shoulder, the day's last rays cast a halo around them. I held my breath and pressed the shutter. No one smiled. No one posed. Just a woman and child in a garden heavy with unspoken memories. After the party, Vincent approached. You see what others overlook. Don't leave after sending the photos. I want to review them with you. As I packed equipment, I felt I'd captured something weighty, not just preserving moments but holding on to something on the verge of changing. I was reviewing images when a voice cut through the air. Who are you? A tall, broad-shouldered man stood there, salt and pepper hair, gray eyes like London fog. Dominic Moretti, Vincent's older brother. I'm Emily Parker. Vincent invited me to photograph. Vincent has a habit of bringing strangers into the house without warning. His eyes flicked to the laptop screen showing Lily and Lucia. His expression darkened. Does he think bringing a child here will soften my mother? He laughed humorlessly. Perhaps he's forgotten that the smallest, most harmless things cause the worst consequences. Just like Sophia. Do you know who Sophia is, photographer? I nodded slightly, heart quickening. She was my daughter. My mother's first grandchild. The one who turned everything upside down by loving the wrong person. He stepped closer. I don't care where you came from. This is my home, and I don't want to see my son playing with a child whose background I know nothing about. His tone carried fear beneath anger, a fracture from a past everyone was trying to bury. You have no idea what you've stepped into. The door slammed behind him. That night I researched Sophia Moretti. Dominic's daughter, born when he was young, gifted in art, invited to a New York exhibition. At 20, she died in a car accident. No pursuit, no substances, just a quiet death wrapped in a private funeral. The next morning, Vincent sat reviewing photos, pausing on Lucia and Lily. Did you know my mother didn't speak to Dominic for 2 years? He looked at me. After Sophia's death, my mother was hollow. Dominic blamed the family. She blamed herself. But the one truly responsible was Sophia's lover, a drug trafficker connected to the Russian Mafia. He looked directly at me. Dominic swore he'd never allow another child in this family to be pulled into that world. When he saw Lily, that was his reaction. Did Sophia have a child? No. But my mother believed if Sophia had lived, she might have changed, started over. When she looks at Lily, she sees what Sophia never had the chance to become. Vincent spoke softly. You're nothing like Sophia. But you carry a piece of what we lost. I understood then, I was no longer an outsider. I'd stepped into an unhealed fracture, and somehow I'd become the one holding the only tool capable of telling it, my photographs. The following days slipped by in quiet warmth. Lucia invited me for morning tea. Rosa and Lily became inseparable. Vincent was always there when needed, watching Lily with storing each moment. One evening in the kitchen, Vincent helped me prepare food for Lily without asking. When Lily burst in and climbed into the chair beside him, he laughed, a real laugh that softened his whole face. I watched Vincent feed Lily small fruit pieces, his hand steady, gaze gentle. The distance between us was shrinking. Lucia entered the library one afternoon. Vincent hasn't spent this much time with anyone since Sophia died. Once he lets someone into his world, it's not easy for them to leave. She placed her hand on a photo of Lily and Rosa. If there's anything worth beginning again for, it's moments like these. I nodded, but something in my chest tightened. I was no longer just a photographer. I stood inside a family stitched with old wounds. Vincent still hadn't confessed feelings. But every gesture, every look at Lily, every moment at the edges of our life was an answer clearer than words. That ordinary morning shattered when Marcus burst in, pale as chalk. "Emily, where's Lily?" "In the garden with Rosa." He whipped out his phone, voice tight. "Lock every gate. Check all cameras." I ran outside. The garden was empty. Lily was gone. Rosa sobbed beside the fountain, pointing toward the western fence. "They took her. A black car. They pushed her in and drove away." The mansion erupted. Dominic appeared, shouting orders. Lucia sat frozen, face drained. Vincent returned near noon. He didn't ask questions. He simply looked at me with anguish without sound, fury restrained so tightly it darkened the air. Surveillance showed a small black van with no plate stopping when a guard was distracted. Two men seized Lily in 10 seconds and disappeared toward the pine forest. Dominic punched the wall, knuckles splitting. Vincent turned to me, gripping my shoulders. "I swear I will bring Lily back. At any cost." A message arrived. A video of Lily, hands lightly bound, in a cement room. A Russian-accented voice. "Lily will remain unharmed if Vincent Moretti behaves." A paper appeared, 24 hours. "Bring the transaction code from the Bellini account. No police, no Dominic, or we return her in pieces." Dominic snatched the phone. "It can't be them. They were driven out 5 years ago." Vincent's eyes darkened. "Alexei Baranov. Russian Mafia. We removed him after signing with the Bellini group. He vanished but only crawled into shadows to wait. Is he back for money or revenge?" "Both." Vincent turned to Marcus. "Check every recent transfer connected to Bellini. Search old warehouses. Find the leak." Realization struck me. This morning the guard got a phone call. He stepped away right before she disappeared. Marcus nodded grimly. "We have a mole." Lucia's voice was calm and cold. "Alexei doesn't want money. He wants to show the city we've lost control." Vincent's voice was low and firm. "He chose the one weakness I can't protect." I gripped his hand. "Vincent, don't think you brought this here. They've been trying to break this family for years. Lily was simply the excuse." Marcus returned. The signal came from abandoned warehouses in the South District. Alexei's old base. Vincent turned to me. "I will bring Lily back. Do you trust me?" I nodded. I had no choice. And perhaps I'd never trusted anyone as much. "I want to go with you, Vincent." His eyes were unyielding. "Emily, I know I won't be able to think straight if you're in danger. I lost Sophia. I cannot lose Lily." Dominic led me upstairs. The door locked from outside. I watched from the balcony as 5 black SUVs lined up. Vincent stood beside Marcus, wearing a bulletproof vest. Dominic placed a hand on his shoulder, nodding. Vincent looked up at me. Our eyes met. No words needed. The convoy rolled out in silence. I sank into a chair, hollow. Lucia left ginger tea and a printed photograph. Lily and Rosa on the grass, smiling in autumn sunlight. I stared at that photograph. Each passing second felt like another cut. I could do nothing except hope that Vincent's heart, frozen after Sophia's death, had finally learned how to love again. The warehouse sat on the city's southern edge where asphalt gave way to dirt. Vincent's convoy stopped 200 meters away. They moved like phantoms through the darkness. When the side door cracked open, Vincent heard a muffled cry. "Lily." He moved forward, each step careful. Marcus counted down with fingers. 3, 2, 1. They surged forward. Guards subdued. The flashlight fell on Lily tied to a chair. She flinched, then saw Vincent. Tears flooded her face. Vincent's arms closed around her, his body trembling. He cut her loose, lifting her against his chest as though letting go would collapse the world. Gunfire erupted from the warehouse's left wing. Vincent pulled Lily tight, shielding her completely. He ran through corridors. One man lunged. Vincent struck a clean blow, dropping him without sound. At the vehicle, Marcus yanked the door open. Vincent placed Lily into Lucia's arms, waiting in the back seat. Their eyes met. Everything contained in a silent nod. Vincent climbed in beside Lily. His hand remained on her shoulder, eyes unblinking. Lily pressed her face to his chest. "I knew you would come." Vincent lowered his forehead to hers, unable to answer because he knew it wasn't only Lily he'd saved. I don't remember reaching the courtyard, only seeing Vincent step out with Lily curled in his arms. I ran, almost collapsing, gathering her into my arms. The fear broke open, spilling into tears. I held her tight, terrified that loosening my grip would make her vanish again. Vincent stood there, and in his eyes I saw something new. Not coldness, not the calm facade of hidden pain, but a quiet ache finally soothed. I looked up. "Thank you." Vincent shook his head, hand brushing my shoulder. Don't thank me for something I should have done long ago. I failed Sophia. I will not fail Lily. His words pierced me, painful but grounding. After settling Lily, I stepped outside. Vincent leaned against the hallway wall. I walked to him and wrapped my arms around him without thinking. He froze, then slowly placed hands on my shoulders. The embrace gentle yet firm, his heartbeat rapid. I pressed my cheek to his chest, leaning on someone without guilt for the first time in years. I lifted my head. I don't know where this is going. But if you hadn't come tonight, I don't know what would have become of me. Vincent placed a hand on my cheek. I won't promise I'll never hurt you. But if you give me a chance, I promise you won't face anything alone again. My heart stopped resisting. Perhaps it wasn't love yet, but it was trust. For someone once left standing alone in rain, that was enough to begin again. The morning after felt strangely heavy. Marcus brought a USB drive to Vincent. I watched Vincent's face as he read. Something cracked inside him. He closed the laptop, fingers whitening. Dominic. He's the one who leaked Lily's location. My throat tightened. Why? Because of power. Because he thinks you and Lily are weakness. Alexei was waiting, and Dominic gave him the reason. Lucia walked in. He did the same to Sophia. When she wanted to leave, he cut her off, pushed her toward the underworld. When she died, he called it fate. Vincent sank into the chair. This time he went further. You have to do something, I said, taking his hand. For yourself. For Sophia. For Lily. Vincent threw the USB onto Dominic's desk. Do you have anything to say? Dominic closed his book. You're being emotional. This isn't betrayal. It's strategy. Delivering Lily to an enemy is strategy? You nearly got a child killed. It was necessary to protect our name. You're too weak. You let a woman cloud your judgment. Vincent stepped forward. If this name requires the blood of a child to survive, then it died long ago. I want no part of it. Dominic froze, then turned away. Then you are no longer a Moretti. Vincent laughed softly, bitterly. No. I never was. News spread quickly. Vincent withdrew, spending time in Sophia's old library with her unfinished paintings. One evening he knocked on my door, eyes shadowed but resolved. Dominic will not be killed. I thought about this. Killing him might soothe fury momentarily, but then what? It would only turn me into a mirror of him. He spent his life believing fear was the only way to hold power. I choose something else. The next morning, Vincent called an internal meeting. Dominic was stripped of authority. All assets transferred to a separate trust. He would leave Chicago permanently. This is not punishment. This is the only way to preserve the Moretti name without spilling more blood. Lucia nodded slowly, a final farewell requiring no words. Dominic was escorted out that afternoon. No ceremony, just a silver car disappearing beyond black gates. Vincent stood in the garden where Lily played with Rosa. I approached. He spoke softly. That man taught me how to stare at an enemy without blinking. He also taught me never to forgive. But today I chose forgiveness. Not because he deserves it, but because of Lily, because of you, because of Sophia, because of myself. I tightened my grip on his hand. You did the right thing. You didn't lose your honor. You preserved the last piece of humanity. After Dominic left, the atmosphere softened like a storm passing, leaving gentle autumn warmth. Vincent spent more time in the garden with Lily, kneeling to tie shoelaces, his expression tender when she wrapped arms around his neck. One afternoon in my small studio, Vincent stood looking at photographs pinned along the wall. Lily, Lucia, Vincent beside the little girl. Honest truths in passing light. He stepped closer. I didn't pull away. His hands came to rest on my shoulders. One night on the rooftop terrace, we sat overlooking the shimmering city. I once thought I'd spend the rest of my life alone, trying to atone in silence, Vincent said. But then you came. Not loud, not demanding. Simply there, looking at me as if I might still be someone worth trusting. I placed my hand on his. I once thought I could never love again. But maybe things that break aren't meant to return to their original form. Sometimes they only need to be pieced together with gentleness and patience. Vincent held my hand, not tightly, just enough to let me know I was being held, being chosen. Without confessions or promises, a single truth settled. I had begun to love him. Not because he was Vincent Moretti, but because he was the only person who stepped into my damaged world without trying to fix it, choosing instead to simply stay. Friday's meeting was in an old stone building near Eastern Docks, where the Bellini family held major negotiations. Vincent wore a charcoal overcoat, his presence radiating quiet authority. Lorenzo Bellini led the opposing side, sharp-eyed with a penetrating gaze. Vincent, we heard Dominic has been removed. What does that mean for the Moretti family structure? He no longer represents us. I am responsible for all decisions. Then what is today's purpose? To re-establish order. Dominic was wrong, but Alexei exploited that weakness to threaten all of us. We need a true alliance, not on paper but in action. Vincent proposed a new council. Each family one seat, voting power scaled with influence, no absolute veto, all major transactions documented and signed by 3 parties. And if someone betrays the alliance? They will be exiled. No protection, no negotiation. Lorenzo read through the distributed plans, then looked up. You are no longer Dominic's shadow. You've accomplished what he never could, bringing enemies to the same table without firing a single bullet. The representatives signed the agreement. The handshake between Vincent and Lorenzo echoed like punctuation to an old era. Vincent had built more than an alliance. He'd created a framework where honor no longer depended on bloodshed, and trust became the most valuable currency. The next morning, sunlight filtered through Lake Forest Estate's windows, wrapping everything in elegant warmth. I stood watching Lily run in the garden, her hand tucked in Lucia's, laughing brightly. I thought about returning to my old life. But seeing Lily happy, I knew my decision was made. I would stay. Build a new future. Vincent stood beside me, hand on my shoulder. He didn't speak. His presence alone calmed my heart. I planned my photography studio in the estate's side wing, where natural light poured from 3 directions. I began rearranging everything, cameras, lenses, backdrops, creating space that felt like both return and beginning. Lily helped fold colorful cloths, then raced to call Lucia, her voice ringing like a bell. I found myself overwhelmed with relief and happiness. I remembered long nights counting dollars. Now everything fell into place in ways I never dared dream. Vincent walked around the studio, watching how I chose each spot, offering gentle suggestions but always letting me decide. I felt truly trusted. By late afternoon, golden light streaming in, I stood in the middle of my new studio, looking toward the garden where Lily and Lucia played. This wasn't just a workspace. It was home, where Lily would grow protected and loved. That evening on the balcony with Vincent, fingers intertwined, gazing at the shimmering lake, I felt my heart tremble with fullness. Vincent asked about our future, about dreams that were no longer mine alone but ours and Lily's. I told him I loved him, loved how he cared, protected, respected. Loved the trust he gave without asking anything in return. I chose to stay, chose him, chose Lily, chose this home where real happiness could grow. Vincent smiled, gaze drifting to Lily laughing below, then back to me, eyes softened with peace and joy, feelings he once believed he'd never have again. I realized life doesn't always give perfect choices. But it gives precious chances to choose what matters most. Love, trust, protection, a place to call home. Our story, Emily, Vincent, and Lily, is a reminder that no matter how complicated life becomes, love and trust remain the compass guiding us toward true happiness.